Welcome to the Douglas County Chamber's Greystone Power Luncheon. I'm Greg Williams with Kaiser Permanente. I am your 2016 Chairman of the Board for your Douglas County Chamber. At this time, I would like to invite our sponsor, Dennis Connolly, to come up, certified public accountants, to come up and say a few remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are honored to be the host of today's luncheon. My name is Andrew Jordan, and I'm one of the CPAs from T. Dennis Connolly. Our firm is a quality-based CPA firm that handles taxes, audits, bookkeeping, several other accounting services, and even insurance services. The reason we try to offer this wide variety of services is in order to cater to each individual and their company. Our true goal is to help you get the most out of your CPA, because realistically, how can you successfully run a business if all you're focusing on is compliance and taxes? While we offer all of these services, the majority of our time is spent on tax returns for individuals as well as companies, such as partnerships, corporations, and sole proprietorships. Dennis was very adamant about hosting this month's luncheon because we are quickly approaching tax season, in case you didn't realize it. We're expecting this tax season to be about as chaotic and stressful as last tax season with all of the IRS budget cuts. In case you did not personally experience the effects of these budget cuts, they included delayed refunds, delayed processing, unanswered instances of identity theft, which impacted a good bit of you that had Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance, and several what the IRS referred to as complimentary disconnects. In case you don't know what a complimentary disconnect is, it's with their 1-800 number. Apparently you're on hold for several hours, and then instead of letting you wait it out because you've committed that long, they go ahead and hang up for you. Nice, right? Now, despite all of this, they have improved significantly over the past few years, streamlining everything online. There are a lot of things you can do online through their IRS tools. But this is also a double-edged sword because they could change the guidance on the tax law right in the middle of tax season, which is what they did last year with the 3115s that Dennis was talking about last year. When you're going through a tax season like this, it's important to know that you have a CPA that has prepared your return right the first time, especially when you're someone with a small business, because small businesses tend to have more complex transactions, more deductions, more business-related deductions. And if you don't think your transactions are complex, if you had any repairs or maintenance to a business automobile, the IRS now considers that complex. Now, at our firm, we're not going to promise you a free car. We're not going to give you a year of free rent. We're not going to put up signs that they say $3,000 per child. And I doubt Dennis is going to put on a green tie, get aboard a military-grade transport chopper and drop a pallet of Benjamins from the sky, giving you all your billions back. But we will do your return correctly, which can be pretty comforting when you're dealing with the IRS. Especially if you're self-employed, this is especially important because many of you know that April 15th isn't always refund time. A lot of times it's break the bank time. You know what's worse than pouring out money on April 15th? Pouring out money on April 15th, then having to pour out money in June because you realize the preparer added an extra zero to your return. And the IRS loves tacking on those interest and penalties that they're legally required to charge. Now that I've scared all of you, if any of you are interested in us having a look at your tax information or interested in one of our other services, you can find our contact information inside your free tumblers. It should have some business cards. You can speak with Dennis, myself, or one of our staff right here. If you guys could stand. We pride ourselves on quality, but we also pride ourselves on friendliness and personalization. All of these things could not be accomplished without these people. I'm glad to work alongside them every day. If you come in around April, you may see some of our eyes twitching, but we'll still try to be as friendly and personal as possible, because we know running a business is not easy. And Dennis likes to joke that we're unlicensed psychologists, but to be honest, you have to have somebody like that for you every step of the way. Thank you, guys. I believe Dennis wanted to say a few words.
I know we're running over our time, but I have three important announcements to make. We're delighted Kathy Barnes, CPA, has joined our firm. I'm going to be teaching a course tomorrow, 3 hours, about how to keep what you make and not pay taxes. It's free here at the Chamber. And then most importantly is a personal day of happiness. My wife of 58 years is celebrating her 77th birthday.
Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate your firm and your support of this luncheon each year. At this time, I would like to ask Steve McFall with Central Baptist Church to come forward and lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Thank you. I'm actually not with Dennis Connolly Associates. I stood up there because I was thinking that he was saying stand for the pledge, and I was going to lead the pledge. And so I'm just actually glad to be here today. What about you? Let me share with you, and this was a great intro to the verse I'd like to share today. I don't know if you have YouVersion, but from Luke chapter 12, verse 48, it reminds me of so many of you. And it says, to whom much is given, much is required. I watch so many of you. So many of you have been given so much by God. And I watch you give it out every day. In your voluntary service, in your community service, I'm so grateful for you. And I'm thankful today that I can thank God with you today as we give thanks for this food, that we have been given much. And I believe we find the greatest part of life when we actually give it back. So let's pray together. God, to you who gives it all, we want to thank you today that we have been given much, and you actually require that we give much back. And so, Lord, today in this community of Douglasville, Douglas County, I want to thank you, God, for my comrades, Lord, and all the different aspects of the way we serve this community, God, that we have this opportunity to meet that requirement, to give much back. And we thank you for this. In Christ's name, amen. Let's stand together. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I ask our elected officials to please stand and introduce themselves at this time.
Douglasville City Council. Mayor Pro Tem Barry Yockey. Michelle Robinson, Mayor of the City of Douglasville. And James Guider, District 4 Commissioner.
Comworth, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sam, I'm sorry. Comworth, I'm Chairman of the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Will our chamber board members please stand and introduce themselves?
Paul Robinson, Legislative Associates. Randy Whitaker, Bank of Dog.
Valerie Howell with Roland.
John Selby, George Power.
Ken Bernard, Attorney.
Matt Barrington, Regents Bank. Roscoe Sayar, Simon Roscoe's.
Karen Pearson, Northland Power.
Chris Pumphrey, Douglas County Economic Development Authority.
Howard Ray, with Hughes Ray Company.
Gil Strauss, Water and Sewer Authority.
And again, I'm Greg Williams with Kaiser Permanente. We're also very proud of our 2016 Chairman's Club, members that have joined us today. I am sure many of you have noted them at the slides that were showing earlier at the luncheon. But I do want to say thank you and recognize the group sitting up front. Thank you for your support. And finally, but not last, is the chamber diplomats. Without them, none of this would be possible. They're the hardest working part of the group. So I would like for our diplomats to stand and be recognized, please. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. Rajiv Dewan, Director and Professional of the Economic Forecasting Center at Georgia State University. Prior to joining Georgia State University in the fall of 2002, he served as Director of Economic Forecasting at the Business Forecasting Project of the Anderson School of Business at UCLA. He earned a BA in economics with honors from St. Stephen's College in India and a MA in economics from the Delhi School of Economics in India, and a PhD in economics from the University of California at Los Angeles. As director of one of the country's premier forecasting centers, he developed forecasts for the U.S. Southeast region and local metro Atlanta economies. So please join us and welcome Dr. Dewan to the stage, please.
Good morning, everybody.
That's not Rajiv. That's my marketing person. I brought her over here today before I begin so she can tell you more about the center and a fabulous offer she has for you for free, okay? So let's give her a few minutes. Her name is Gabriela Salazar. She's just joined the center and she's gonna tell you. Then I'll come back on the stage.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Rajiv, for the introduction. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Economic Forecasting Center at Georgia State University. We are a premier university-based forecasting center, and we provide quarterly publications of Georgia, the state, and also the nation. So these are the publications that you have if you want to approach me at the end so that you can see what we do. We also contribute to 16 national forecast surveys, including Bloomberg and Reuters, and we are constantly being quoted by CNN, CNBC, Business Week, Wall Street Journal, amongst other sources. We are also we contribute also internationally to Germany and IFO, and also in Consensus in the UK. So our quarterly conference are a consortium of GSU experts and business executives like yourselves. Dr. Rajiv Dewan gives his forecast and his insights about what the economy is going to bring in the future. Normally we have 3 other GSU speakers or industry speakers, and we give the forecast reports. And it is also an opportunity for you to network during breakfast, break, and a lunch. For our next conference, which is February 24th, you are all invited. It is going to be down at the Speakers Auditorium at Georgia State University, and it will be focused on real estate. What is the perspective and a detailed analysis of housing and the market outlook for USA and also Georgia and the Atlanta area. This will be an excellent opportunity for you to meet and network with more than 200 professionals in the industry like yourselves. And our guest speakers for this conference are going to be Doug Duncan from Fannie Mae, John Hunt from Via Search Inc. and Smart Numbers, and Frank Norden from Norden Holdings. How we want you to register. This is our address at efc.robinson.gsu.edu. You fill out a registration form, and you enter the registration code DC 2016. As Rajiv mentioned earlier, because we want you to attend and also network with other individuals, It is complimentary for you as long as you enter the code DC 2016. If you want more news about the Economic Forecasting Center, please don't be shy and join us at Facebook at the Economic Forecasting Center at Georgia State University, where we keep you on track of what are the latest news and what are Rajiv's perspective on certain topics. And also follow us on Twitter at EFC/GSU. Thank you, and now please let me introduce Rajiv Dhawan.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Gabriella. I'm going to make sure I don't trip on the wires over here. And you can hear me now in the back. That's good. That's good. So, Gabriella, you're going to ask, like, why I'm being so generous. There's a catch over here, right? You're going to come to the conference for free? Of course. I'm going to do a talk over here, which is going to be a build-up. And when you come to the conference, you're going to get more. Latest update apart from that. You're going to say, look, if I heard him in mid-January, do I need to hear him in late February? Trust me, the way that things are going, you need to hear me every 15 days, okay? Number one. Number two, if you don't care about me, I don't care about me, fine. They got 3 other speakers over there, right? They're all on real estate. Atlanta real estate, national real estate, North Georgia real estate. If you had a speaker in this area on the south part of the I-20 real estate, I would have put him on this program too. So if you have one, let me know. Down the road, I may use them. So your biggest question is, what will 2016 look like? Right? Okay. So, first of all, to warm you up, who you don't want to see standing in the line betting on the lottery, the Powerball jackpot. Remember, $1.5 billion? Did you play it? You fell for the oldest scam. I almost played it. What happened is I went for an eye checkup. They put the drops in there. So on the way back, I could barely see. I couldn't make it to the place to buy it, so I missed it. But that was going to be my retirement. But that's why I invest. Who do you want to see on that lottery line ticket? Your broker. You know? Okay? The way the stock market is going, I mean, you gave the money to your broker, and he went into the Powerball. He said, great returns for you. Provided you found out later on this cousin owned that store where he was buying those Powerball tickets. So let's ask a very smart man what this year will bring. Okay, so I went to the smart man, and he says, look, pal, I got somebody else who's smarter than me, who knows everything. So he turned around and said, let's ask him. And he said, it's gonna be huge. Well, looking at the stock market and the other things, it's huge in the other direction, right? So I was at the meeting and they were asking me about, actually I brought it up, it's China. Everybody knows, everybody's talking about China these days, right? So I'm going to talk about it too, but I'm going to introduce to you how global the economy is by using an example that is so sudden that you would not deny it, okay? So, first of all, to understand it, here's the headline. Sales at Jack Daniel's Makers slipped 2%. That's a good old bourbon, right? Those who are from Tennessee will say, no, it's a Tennessee sour mash whiskey. Potato, it's a bourbon. So this is something we either imbibe or know somebody imbibes or know it's thing, right? So why are the sales down 2%? And they said, the sales have been hurt by a 16% decline in the brand's ready-to-drink products like Jack and Cola and Jack and Ginger. Tell me the last time you had a Jack and Coke from a can. No red-blooded American takes a pre-mixed one on this one, right? You mix one before the game, a few during the game, and one after the game to get over the game, right? Right. That's the way I learned what Jack and Coke was. So you see, so something in Tennessee is suffering because these two products are suffering a lot more, and where are they sold? Those drinks are popular in Australia. So now I've shown you the connection of Tennessee to Australia. Now we just have to get to China, right? All right. This is a chart from one of my research studies. Okay, and a lot of numbers over here, so I'm going to first focus on Australia. Now notice over here. In 1992, Australia only sold 3% of its exports to China. Keep on following the number, starts rising, and by 2013 is 36%. Okay? So now you can understand, now you can see it very clearly. Chinese slow down, they buy less from Australia, the Australians have a problem, they buy less of the bourbon, and then becomes our problem. All right? I can give you all the examples about Caterpillar, this, yada, yada, yada. Show me something where I can feel it. Okay? This is how global the world has become. And notice one thing. It wasn't in 97 that much. That's when I started my forecasting career. It wasn't 2003 that much. It's just about the last 5-7 years. 2008 was the last time you called me over here. I gave you such a great forecast, you never called me back again. So I've landed up 5 years, 7 years later with some numbers. It's not just Australia. Look at some other countries, all the Asian ones, Korea, Japan, and all that. When I left it over there, when you have your smartphone in your hand, whether it's an iPhone or a Samsung or something, where is it made? China. Does China have all the chips and everything and all that? No, it buys it from Japan, Korea, other places, and assembles it. So, if you're going to buy the cell phone, they have to turn around to Korea, Japan, buy the stuff, and then sell it to you over here. Was there an iPhone 10 years ago? No. Now you can see. What used to happen on a glacial scale on 30 years is happening in less than 3. Okay? There are other countries too. Like, for example, Angola sends 45% of their output to China. What does Angola have? Oil, copper, other stuff. Right? You don't care, but it becomes a part of the global market. Okay? So that's one way of looking at it. Oh, South Africa, the number down below. What's South Africa famous for? Diamonds. Everybody says diamonds, but there's another thing they're more famous for. Gold. What is the backbone of the electric circuitry of the modern times? Gold and silver. What's happening to the South African currency in the last 2 years? Tanking like anything. Why? Because they sell so much to what you call it China, and if China doesn't buy, because we are not buying, it becomes a problem for them. So is Canada, right? Tell me a country in the world that is now not tied to China. I can tell you a few. Germany over here, very little, right? Us over here, very little. Okay? On paper. But let's start going more. Spending is a free fall in China for the last 2 years because the new premier, Xi Jinping, came in and said, no more corruption. So when you would seal a deal in China, this is what you call corruption over here, but it's called way of doing business. You go to the government official, everything is owned by the government. You go to the government official, you seal a deal, and you say, okay, you gave me a $5 million contract, here's a couple of nice Rolexes for you, for the kids. For the kids. So when he says, he passed an edict no government official should be seen driving a car that is worth more than $80,000. Okay? That's his edict. You start looking back over there, if the annual salary of a government official is $5,000, how is he affording an $80,000 car? You start thinking, how are they getting that money? So when you put down a kibosh on conspicuous color, no more big parties, there goes the 30-year single malt sales. So you put the kibosh down, they are slowing their economy. Not just we're buying less, they are literally putting foot on the brakes. So when that happens, it starts reverberating to the rest of the world. So all the Swiss manufacturers of watches, cognac, and this thing, they're all saying, man, our sales stink. That's because of this unintended consequences. Now, there's always money to be made. There's one area that is booming in China, and that is corruption crackdown, a boon for lingerie makers. If you can't see it, you can confiscate it. Okay? Now, I told you China is the factory of the world. Now notice one thing. With all these countries, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Germany, Australia, Malaysia, Brazil, it runs a trade deficit. That means it buys more than it sells them. Okay? So who does he sell a lot more? Of course, Russia a little bit, followed by us and Europe. So this is what you call the factory of the world. You buy from everybody else to sell it over there. Okay? If we don't buy enough or they shut down their buying, that becomes a problem. Okay? That's what I was trying to say over here. Now you say, this is all a broad theory, Australia, Angola, South Africa, bite me, I don't care. So I brought it back a little bit closer to home. You say local, local, local. I'm going to bring it over here. Sometimes you should not wish on certain things. You wished, I'm going to deliver it. So Delta is our premier airline, biggest private employer. You know, it's very important for the hospitality industry, which is the number one in Atlanta, right? They don't even pay me to say those things, but I'm still saying it. So how's the Delta performance been on the revenue? Well, it used to be 10, 5, 7, 8%, but since 2014, if you notice, it's been coming down and it's now practically zero. No growth in revenues. Now, if you notice, you break it down, domestic is growing 5%, always has been doing better. It's the international segment that is dropping at the rate of 7, 8%, right? And who's the culprit on the international? The biggest one is Pacific, which is code word for Asia and China. Notice, the growth rates of these areas used to be 20% in the go-go days, is negative 15 now. So you see the connection of now, of China. If China doesn't buy enough from Korea, Japan, and all that, not too many executives are flying from here to do the deals. But they're not getting that many passengers between over there. So, what have they announced in the last few months? About a few months ago, they said Delta is cutting jobs, and to which I say, not good. Okay? So this is your connection now to the global economy. Okay? Bourbon was one, Delta is the other. Bourbon doesn't cost you jobs, Delta does. Somebody asked me at the get-together, what about the oil market? And you can guess it. The biggest increase in production has been in US, not in OPEC, not in Russia, not in the other countries. Notice one thing. Big increase in production over the last 5 years, and you know that's the shale oil, right? And everybody else, not much increase in production. So you're producing 4 million extra barrels per day. Somebody has to buy it, right? Are we buying any more oil? The other blue lines? No. Are the Europeans buying any oil more? No. Actually, they're buying less. Is Japan buying more, another big economy? No. So who bought the oil in the last few years? China. So now when you see the oil prices tanking, there are multiple reasons for that, but it has to start with a fundamental reason. Somebody is demanding less, right? And who's that? Are we? We are buying more cars, right? We're building more, so we could not be demanding less, right? We are not entered into a recession or anything. We're doing pretty decent. So who's not buying? You don't have to be rocket scientists. You don't have to read for the newspaper. China. It's clear over there. Okay? Which is good news for the gas price, right? So now if you want the low gas prices for a long time, you just keep on praying, Lord, don't let the Chinese figure out what to do. Okay? Now, that was the oil market. Let's go to the stock market, right? How many of you have made the mistake in the last few days of opening up your retirement portfolio and looking at the values? Raise your hands. I resisted for 10 days. I don't know what happened over the weekend. Maybe it was a nice steak I made or the nice wine I had. I succumbed to it yesterday, to the temptation, and opened it, and I was shocked. I wasn't shocked. I just realized I have to work 2 more extra years to make up for the losses. There goes the retirement. Okay? So I'm going to show you something over here. 2 stocks over the last year or so. Google versus Apple. Okay? Look at Google. Over a year, including, and there's been a downturn recently, right, in the last 15 days. But if you held Google over the last 1 year and 15 days, you made a 47% return. If you held Apple, you lost about 6.29%. You see the difference? Can you guess why? Of course I can tell you. Which one of these companies has nothing to do with China? Man, if you can't answer that, you can't answer how many points you scored on the 3-point basket. Remember that famous question? It has a connection to UCLA. That guy was the son of the former UCLA coach, Herrick. Okay? The reason is Apple cuts back on orders for its iPhones. So now you can see how iPhone production and sales, if they cut back on the orders, the Chinese are not going to be buying enough from Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, and all that, won't be producing that much, and won't be selling it over here, so it becomes everybody's problem. Whether they don't buy it or we don't buy it, doesn't matter. The chain starts and it rolls through the entire system, including your retirement portfolio. That is why your broker was standing in the Powerball line, because he bought Apple. This would not have been even remotely possible 20 years ago when I started in the business, or even 5-7 years ago. This is how much the world has changed. And you don't have to change with it. You just have to understand it and recognize it, and start putting a little part in your prayer about somebody else. So then I introduce to people how do I think about the economy? So I'm going to show you a chart that you can remember. I wish I had a laser pointer over here, but just to, my voice can carry. The big issue now is what I've learned in my 20 years is stock market in the middle, your financial market. That affects your mood for the spending. That's where the Federal Reserve is. That's what the investment done by the companies is. That's where the DC politics, European Central Bank in Europe. This is the old traditional model, modified a little bit, okay? So if the Federal Reserve is cutting the rates, doing quantitative easing, it will help the market, more money, you feel more wealthy, you go out and spend the money, right? The standard thing, right? But now the modern model is, part of the model is commodities and oil, right? You all understand oil shocks and that thing, so you already know that. And if the oil goes up and down, gets a benefit or a loss to the consumer. This is the way we did the stuff between I started forecasting in 96. So for me, life only started in 96. Before that, I don't care how they did it. So that's how I did it from 96 till like about 2008 or 9, okay? About 2010, 11, some new stuff came in. And the first one is China and the emerging markets. China buys stuff from the emerging markets and becomes an issue for the stock market, right? Okay, that's the way I do the connection. I don't care. I don't care what Brazil or Angola are doing. Okay? I don't even know where they are. But I know it affects my world equity portfolio, markets, my portfolio, and that's all I care about, right? I gotta retire. Then you have the new things, like in the last few years, you have always the Greeks saying, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave. So I say one thing, why does it affect the stock market? Because every time they say we're gonna leave, investors in the world say, you know what, do I really need to buy euro? Let me go buy the US Treasury. That makes for lower interest rates over here, lower mortgage rates, more good news for the housing market. This is the way you read it. So thank God for our Greek cousins. We look the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry basket. Our level of debt's high. Who cares? They're buying. Who's the other good friend of our markets? Can you guess it? Who's left? Yes, you get the prize. Why? Every time it scares up Ukraine and all that thing, the money starts pouring out into Europe and then over here, right? If you're an oligarch in Russia and you have $5 billion, you never know Putin's going to confiscate it. So you take some money out, you send your daughter to study in Columbia University, she's a freshman, and you say, I need to buy an apartment for her. So that's why the $200 million penthouse suite was sold. It is actually written over there. Okay? This is how global the world is now. The Chinese also come and buy. They buy it in mostly in California and Washington state. They come a little bit to Dallas. They come a little bit to New York, but they stick over there. The Russians come to New York, a little bit over there. The Venezuelans come to Miami. Argentines come to Miami. Now you're beginning to see the next step will be Atlanta area because we are much cheaper than Miami, LA, New York. We have a better weather and we're cheaper. That's going to be the next wave. It's already coming. I've already heard from people in Gainesville, real estate agents, saying, I'm beginning to see a lot more Chinese shopping for homes over here. It's already happening. They're going to come over here too. Okay? So this is now the modern world economic model. So now you can understand why. Now you can understand when you open up the news about China in the newspaper, you can start already seeing connection, what's going to happen, what's going to move, what's going to happen. Okay? This was all I'm trying to do is educate you. When you come to the conference, you probably will see this model in 30 seconds and I want to say, if you remember what I told you, I'll quiz you on it, let's move on. What do US economists think of Chinese economic statistics? Today, China came out with the numbers that they grew 6.8%, lowest in 25 years. IMF downgraded the forecast for the rest of the world today. Downgraded us, Germany, France, everybody. Who did they not downgrade? China. Why? I can't explain that. I want to work for the IMF. But so somebody had a statement, only a fool would believe them. Who was that person? It was me. Front page, headline in Wall Street Journal, which means my chances of visiting China are zero now. I'm never gonna get a visa. In fact, I would not even go around close to it like Singapore and all that. Thailand, Singapore, dangerous for me. I have no intention of going over there. I get good Thai food over here and in New Zealand. Trust me, this is how global the world is. The best Thai food I had was in New Zealand. So, how to get a handle on Chinese growth? You want to read it. So, you're reading the newspaper, you don't believe the official stats, 6.9, 6.8. How do you figure it out? Well, you can start reading the headlines, what the property developers are doing. Then you have a headlines, the Chinese are not spending. That doesn't help you, right? It tells you there's a problem, but you want to know how much is the problem. Okay? So, try to follow growth rates of Chinese car sales. Now, you know, car sales in any economy is a very good indicator of the mood of the people, financing availability, the need to buy, and how crazy you are, right? Look at the current car sales. I won't come to it why they're selling, but it's pretty good. So, Chinese car sales used to run 15 to 20%. What are they running right now? Negative or zero? So when they start getting to the positive territory, you know they have come up better, okay? I'm just giving you markers. Or you can follow the cognac exports to China. Something outside the box, okay? Now what's selling the cars? Mario Gabelli says it's all marketing and that's inducing demand. And this was an article in Wall Street Journal 3 years ago, and it said 97-month car loan. How many of you have recently bought a new car? Raise your hands. Did you get that deal? Go back and get it. You got ripped. Jokes apart, it is happening. The average loan length, the average, we're not talking maximum, minimum, the average loan length of a car loan in the US is 67 months. My first car loan was 60 months and they were barely willing to give it to me. So that means the 84-month car loans are very common. Loan to value ratio of 105% is very common. When was the last time you borrowed on a car and it appreciated coming off the dealer's lot? Not even Ferraris do that. Okay? And also, they're dropping the credit scores. So, come on. So, what's happening is that the value of the loan is rising. You lower the interest rate, you lower the credit quality, you give a higher loan length, so something has to rise, right? That's the value of the loan. So, loan to value ratio on average is more than 105%. So, I'm not worried about it. You see the car sales at such a big number, and you see all the shenanigans going on that's selling it, does that make me worried? Nope. It's not like the housing market. Housing is a very illiquid thing. We all know what happened, right? We built it, sold it somehow, and then there were foreclosures and everything. Nasty process. Cars, not a big deal. One click of the internet key, and the car doesn't work anymore. So you can repossess it very quickly. Get 60 cents in the dollar, anytime, any place. And if that doesn't work and the person runs away with the car, call Dog the Bounty Hunter. They'll get it for you. So what's happening as part of this thing? People are not spending on shopping malls. You can see it very clearly. The retail sales are weak because when you have to buy a car and service that loan, it doesn't leave you enough to do the other things because your incomes are not growing that well and there's no more home equity piggy bank to dump into and get the money out. You become very, very rational consumer, or as I call, very un-American. You move into a new home with the old furniture. Lord, that's an indignity. So the Federal Reserve raised the rates in December. The issue is, if you read the markets, they say, oh, they're going to raise it 4 more times this year. Really? All they have done is every time they do quantitative easing, or they were printing the money as you call it, colloquially speaking, that's incorrect, but let's go with that. The market is rising. Look at the blue areas, right? And whenever they don't do anything, the market is flat or actually even falling at times. And that was last summer, the China panic. And the markets fell 10, 15%, 15% in Germany, 10% over here, and then they recovered. And in December, things were stable, so they raised it. But right now, it is more of a bloodbath. Okay? Now, forget about mathematics, economics, and all that. You were sitting at that FOMC committee meeting. Would you vote for a rate increase right now? You're going to say, there's already fire burning in the financial markets. We don't know what it is. Till it doesn't settle down, I'm not going to move. So nothing's going to move in January. The issue is March. So I'm not a forecaster for the stock market, okay? If I was, I wouldn't be singing over here for my supper, right? I can talk about it and all that, okay? So last time, within a couple of months, it recovered from these lows and they were able to move. So I'm saying it's probably going to recover, and by March, they can move once, and that's it. After that comes in the political turmoil. Elections, stay off it. So you're all going to get is one rate hike. For those who care about rate hikes, bankers and all that, you just got the bad news, only one more. Those of you who are looking at refis and all that, you got a little bit of a good news. In fact, the refis should look pretty good. The interest rates are still low. Okay. So it does that, GDP growth, yada, 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 24, 26, 24, who cares? Let's move on. Local economy. Momentum is slowing. Momentum was better than the US economy, but has really slowed. Okay? In the first 9 months of 2014, we added about 104,000 jobs. How many did we add this year? Only 47. So there were a lot of people coming into town last year, early part of last year, telling you that you're going to have 150,000 in job growth. To make from 47 to 150, you're going to have, in the last 3 months, 50,000 per month. That means you should have seen building of 2,000 housing permits per month over here, whereas you're only doing 250 a year. It can happen in dreams. Or maybe the entire Chinese contingent wants to come and buy it over here. Barring that, it doesn't happen. Okay, so you got to be realistic. And where was it happening, the slowdown? It was happening in the high-paying job categories called the catalyst sectors, especially in corporate, information, financial. So, okay. But I say don't worry that much, because when you have jobs, you have income. When you have income, you have spending. And that's my triangle of money concept. In 2004, when everybody said, there's a great job growth going on, I said, show me the money. I don't see it. And I turned out to be right. Numbers were revised from a positive job growth of 50,000, we went to negative 50. What do I look at? I look at taxes. Taxes are growing fine. It tells me the jobs are being created, just because the data doesn't show it. Okay? But not at a rate that you can take home to the bank and say it's 150. It's about 70, 80, 100,000. Okay? Just about that. Construction's going on. You can see that the cranes in Atlanta. And there's this 1 square mile arts and entertainment district in Midtown. I don't know how many of you have been there. I think the millennials have been there. There are a few in the audience. Okay? And they have so many developments going on over there, the minds boggles. These are financed. So more coming in. Okay? In 1 square mile, they're going to put in 5,000 apartments, which is going to double the supply overnight. Okay? Do you have that kind of a boom going on over here? No. You're not zoned to build high-rises over here, right? If you are, you would like to attract them, right? Okay? But beware, there's always unintended consequences. So I'm going to show you one of them. Think hard before you wish. So you're going to have some bikers over here. People who live in these places, they like to bike and walk to work and all that. So this biker says, "Hey, was that you who just drove by me in a gray Honda Accord?" He says, "Yeah, but I slowed down and gave you the right of way." He says, "But you didn't bow." Okay? So this, to which the goat says, cyclists are fascists in tight pants. I've been called ignorant, oldie in doing arguments with them, and I just try to prove them that it doesn't work. You're basically organ donor. So they call you ignorant. So, okay. So, growth is continuation of growth, okay? So I've been getting the signal, I need to warm it up, but to get more details, more everything, you need to come to the conference, okay? I can't do everything. I can't do trigonometry, algebra, and calculus in 30 minutes. I can do it, but you will hate me. There'll be no jokes. So come to the conference. These are 3 real estate experts. They're my good friends, and I can promise you they will deliver, okay? What about the presidential polls? You know, this was 4 months ago, and this is now. A lot of people are out, who's the leader and everything. So people ask me, what's my prediction? This I'm going way beyond the scope of my prediction. So far beyond, it's a chasm. But I'm bold. I'm a forecaster. Often wrong, but never in doubt. All right? All right. I thank you for your patience. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. Anybody? Can I go back to my dessert? It was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sean, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. As a thank you for your speaking and contribution will be made in your name to the Chamber Board Scholarship, which funds a scholarship for a graduating high school senior each year. Dennis, will you please come up and draw for your door prizes, please? All right, the first prize is a $50 gift certificate at Gabe's. And the number is 789589. All right. The second prize is a $50 gift certificate at Fabiano's. And the winner is 077074. The next prize is a $50 gift certificate from Sam's and Roscoe's. The winning number is 510119. Thank you. Then now for a couple of quick announcements. The Chamber is now accepting Leadership Douglas applications for the 2017 class, which are available on the Chamber website. Application deadline is March 15th. The Chamber Annual Awards Banquet, presented by Kaiser Permanente, is Saturday, February the 6th, at the Center at Arbor Connection. There are less than 10 tickets available, so I would ask you to please take advantage and reserve your seat. Please pick up your 2016 networking and seminar calendars as you leave. Thanks again to T. Dennis Connolly for sponsoring the day's luncheon and Greystone Power for the naming sponsorship. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for coming out.